Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Nvidia RTX 3060 Ti, the Founders Edition of Nvidia's latest lineup of GPUs, and this is one of the more affordable models of the 3000 series of graphics cards, and yet is still nifty for a number of reasons. Now this one's actually designed to run games at 1440p while still delivering a good frame rate. The highlights of it are it's very affordable if you can manage to get hold of one, being one of the cheapest in the lineup and yet still delivering good performance. Now I've been testing out this card for a couple of weeks and I've got some thoughts on it that I'm going to go through as I unbox it and talk to you about it. I also did a video separately on how to get more frames out of this card and other Nvidia graphics cards. And I've been doing a thing recently as well on Nvidia Reflex, which is one of the many benefits that you can get with the 3000 series and 3060 Ti. There are other things as well that are worth bearing in mind. Things like Nvidia's Broadcast app, which is a software which allows your GPU to use AI in order to cancel out the noise from your microphone, which is really clever. Nvidia Reflex, which I already mentioned, which helps reduce system latency. There's Nvidia DLSS, which means that you can get better quality graphics while maintaining a high frame rate and other things. Obviously this works with Nvidia Shadowplay for capturing footage and G-Sync as well. Now one of the other highlights of the 3060 Ti is it was one of the first cards to support Resizable BAR. Now Resizable BAR is another interesting technology that I'll talk about in a minute. Inside the box, as you can see, you get the graphics card itself, number of manuals, and an adapter. That allows you to plug in an 8-pin PCIe connection from your power supply unit into the adapter that then fits into the graphics card itself. This is something that comes with the Founder Editions cards, and you won't see them on the other manufacturers' cards, and it is a bit of a faff. And it takes away from the aesthetic, and you'll see what I mean in a minute when I go about the installation process. But otherwise, as you'll see from the shots in this video, it's a very nice looking card. It's also quite compact. I'm going to leave all the links in the description and specifications so you can find out the size of it if you're wondering whether it will fit in your case. But as you can see, it's pretty compact and tiny with just 2 fans. It also has that blower style as well, so there's a gap that you'll see through the back which allows the air to pass through nicely. It's a really nicely designed card. It looks fantastic, but it also keeps cool under pressure. I ran a number of benchmarks on it and I used it for gaming regularly, and you'll see some of the captured footage from those gaming sessions at the end of this video, and I'll leave the benchmarks in the description. But what I found was it ran really well, it delivered really good performance, and overall it was really nice for gaming purposes. I will note, however, that I did have some problems with video editing. I found that there were some issues with rendering footage using this card, which was a bit unusual, and it might be partly down to the software, because there has recently been an update to Vegas 18, which is what I use for my video editing. But I found that when I rendered with the GPU rendering processes, it ended up resulting in some weird flickering on videos that I actually didn't find out until I'd uploaded them to YouTube, which was a real frustration and not something I've seen with other Nvidia cards that I've tested. 3090 is not doing it. The RTX 2080 Ti certainly didn't have any issues with this, and rendering 4K video is not normally a problem, but for some reason this 3060 Ti did have some issues. I don't know if I'm unique to having that problem, but I think it's worth mentioning. But for gaming purposes, fantastic machine. Now this card has a number of outputs on it. It has HDMI 2.1, 3 DisplayPort 4.1a connections, and you can run up to 4 displays with a maximum resolution of 7680 by 4320. So there's a lot of pixels going on there and plenty of goodness. And as I said, a fantastic beast for running games on it. Actually ran really well with Rainbow Six Siege, for example, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I've been playing as well. Got some really decent FPS out of that, as you'll see at the end of this video. In Rainbow Six Siege it was up to 300 FPS, whereas certainly in the high 200s on the regular, so it definitely doesn't have any issues. It is aimed at 1440p though, so you will get the best performance at either at 1080p or 1440p out of this card, but it is an affordable card and an interesting one. Now this is an interesting one versus the standard 3060 as well. So this is 3060 Ti, which has more CUDA cores than the 3060, because this has 4864, whereas the 3060 has 3854. But it has a lower boost clock, and it also has less RAM. It has 8 GB of GDDR6. But what makes it interesting, as I said earlier on, is it also works with NVIDIA's Resizable BAR technology, which basically means that you can now allow your GPU and CPU to communicate more easily. And this is something that's set up as standard with this card. But with other 3000 series cards, you need to flash the BIOS with some of them, which is a pretty scary thing to do on your graphics card, to flash that BIOS and get that running. But what it does is it allows the CPU to send data to the VRAM on the graphics card and communicate with the graphics card, and therefore prevent bottlenecks and therefore improve the performance of your gaming experience as well, which is really nice. Now here you can see the installation process and what I was talking about. Come from a 3080 that was testing recently, so I had two 8-pin connectors plugged in. With this adapter you only need one 8-pin, and then that goes into the 12-pin on the graphics card itself. Now this looks pretty hideous because unfortunately you can't plug in your nice cables, so I've got some premium sleeved Corsair PSU cables there that now have to plug into this awful looking adapter that comes with the GPU itself. Now there are going to be some power supply unit cables from manufacturers that will allow you to change that and improve the look and feel of it, but as standard is not a great design in that way. However, perhaps you might want to consider vertical mounting if your GPU will fit in that way in your case as well, because as you can see, this is a really nice looking card and easy on the eye in a number of ways. Close-up shots really show off the beauty of it as a whole. So what do I think of the 3060 Ti? It's been a very nice thing to use. It's quite compact actually. It sat quite nicely in my case. I've got quite a large case and it doesn't take up much room in there at all, and yet it oozes quality in this Founders Edition design. It looks really nice, really good looking thing. And as I said, it also ran really nicely. You'll see the benchmarks in the description from 3D Mark and PC Mark, and it ran really well on those. But for general day-to-day testing, it also was really good there too. And as I said, it will work with NVIDIA's Reflex technology, so you can make the most of that. Now, so here you can see some footage that I captured on a 360 Hertz gaming monitor from Asus that I recently did a video on, and I'm running roughly very high and ultra settings on Rainbow Six Siege, and it was getting over 100 up to nearly 300 FPS regularly. But the highlight is that it will work with Reflex, so you can turn on NVIDIA Reflex, and with this screen you can also use NVIDIA's Reflex Latency Analyzer, which allows you to minimize the amount of system latency and track the information sent when you click your mouse through to the PC, so you can minimize the latency and the delay in that as well. I've done a separate video on that that goes into a lot more depth, but the experience was really solid, really high frame rates and no issues. The temperatures are also decent. As you can see, if you have a little look on the right hand side, you'll see from the GPU readout that I'm getting about 62 degrees, so it was running pretty cool the whole time while I was using it. I never noticed any problems with it overheating or getting too hot, and it ran really quietly as well, considering the number of fans I've got in there already. It didn't add extra noise into the system, and the overall performance was really good. As I said, there was a couple of niggles where I had issues rendering video, and it didn't happen consistently, so I don't know if it was a software or a driver issue or something more sinister. But I think it's worth noting that if you're thinking about using this for video editing, be aware that you might have problems if you're using Vegas Pro. And I ended up having to render videos a lot with my CPU rather than my GPU, which was a real problem. That's not an issue I've had with the 3090 or the 3080, so it's a bit of an odd one. However, this is a lesser card, which, as I said, is aimed at 1440p, so maybe struggled rendering 4K video. I'm not sure. I've not seen any other reviewers saying the same thing. But for gaming purposes, it's been really nice. It ran really well. It runs at a high frame rate, and even on really high settings, it works really well too. And you can see some footage captured here using OBS Streamlabs, where I was playing on Hell Let Loose, which is a World War II shooter, which has really good visuals, really high visuals on it, and it was still getting some really decent frame rates out of that as well, and it looked fantastic and the effects were great. And obviously capturing footage using the GPU while playing the game, and still had a good smooth experience on the same system too. This wasn't streaming at the time, but it was capturing footage at that same time as well. So overall, a really nice card, affordable if you can find one, and certainly a really good option if you're looking for something affordable. You're thinking about 1080p or 1440p gaming. You want a really nice looking card that delivers great performance and has all those benefits: the resizable bar, the DLSS, the ray tracing, NVIDIA Broadcast, shadow play, and loads of other things. well worth looking at. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions. Check out the description for the specs, links to buy, and other information you might find useful, as well as those benchmarks. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you found it useful, interesting, hilarious, or all of the above. Be sure to check out the description for other information you might find interesting, and subscribe and watch these other videos as well that I think might be useful to you, and have a great life.